All right. Again, welcome to another meeting. We are the truth, myself, Chief Eagle, Chief Alligator, as well as Chief Whitewater. And here, this is channel for American Prisoners of War, and focus on the first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Before we get started today, we definitely have to address something pretty much elephant in the room. Hate to say it, but it's an, I told you so moment. We've been on this channel for over a year now, telling you how we've been military occupied. We've shown you proof, we've shown you evidence. We've done it in, a high level thinking, all different kind of ways we could put it to you. But now it's just trying to, slap you across the head with it. I think a couple of days ago, actually September 7th, they came out with an article, not even an article, actually, it was on MSNBC. Again, this is a worldwide televised news channel, and they pretty much just exposed how we're being military occupied. The Anti-Defamation League, the actual CEO, if I recall correctly, was on MSNBC and pretty much unpacked this information, said that there was 38,000 members of the Oath Keepers, again, a militia group, and 38,000 members of them included politicians, active military, police officers, police sheriffs, judges, anything you could think of, even down to, I believe he's even said pastor. So again, people, this is just one militia group. We list every week who has the power or who pretty much controls the militia, which is the president. And now it should start making sense how January 6th can happen, but then nothing as far as criminal charges get applied to these people, because the people that would apply these criminal charges are actually within this government. So again, just gonna play a quick, believe it's a 5-minute video showing exactly what pretty much I'm speaking about, and then we're gonna talk about it because we have to address this as a group. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and then we'll get into it.
Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism is out with an in-depth analysis of a leaked Oath Keepers membership list from a year ago, which finds there were hundreds of names on it of current or former elected officials, law enforcement officers, and members of the military. The Oath Keepers are a far-right militia group, multiple members of which stormed the United States Capitol during the insurrection and then attack on January 6th. For more on this new report, CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, joins us now. Jonathan, thanks for being with us. So take us through the report that you all did, how you got your hands on the list, and what were some of the more troubling aspects of what you found?
Sure. Thank you for having me this morning, Willie. And I will tell you, this is a chilling report, the likes of which we've never released before. Last September, ADL analysts were able to get our hands on a data leak of the Oath Keepers membership rolls. There were 38,000 names that were essentially pulled from their records and put out in the open. Our analysts pulled down the information before the Oath Keepers could pull it back. We used open source techniques, including public records, social media, and other methods to review every single name that we found. And I must say, we thought the Oath Keepers were a threat when they rampaged through the Capitol on January the 6th, but we had no idea just how deep the threat truly is. We found hundreds of active law enforcement members who are part of the Oath Keepers, 10 chiefs of police, 11 sheriffs, dozens and dozens of active members of the U.S. military, some 80 individuals who were running for public office, almost 24 of whom made it through the primaries and will be up this fall. And look, you might not know all of these names. Many people might know Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers, who still, months after the terror attack at the Capitol, proudly proclaimed that she was an Oath Keeper and supported the group. But I'm talking about a county commissioner in Nevada, a town justice in New York, a firearms instructor in Pittsburgh, a pastor in North Carolina, and it goes on and on and on. These are individuals with access and influence. These are individuals with resources and training. And these are individuals who have shown us they are willing to commit acts of sedition and violence against the US government.
Jonathan, are you surprised at the extent of the membership of the Oath Keepers and other far-right groups who apparently, or maybe they do know, that the underpinnings of the philosophy of these groups are rooted in race and religion? In other words, they're against anybody who isn't white. And Jewish people obviously have a target on their backs based upon their philosophies. Does this surprise you at all that their membership is so diverse in a sense?
It somewhat does. I mean, look, right-wing extremism is a spectrum. We know that, Mike. And so there are white supremacists, there are sovereign citizens, and indeed, there are these armed militia groups. We know organizations like the Proud Boys. You know, Tario, the head of it, is Hispanic. And indeed, there is some diversity among the Oath Keepers. But I think what's more frightening is the fact that they, for a long time, have prioritized recruiting active and retired law enforcement and military. We thought, Mike, they weren't being successful. We were wrong. We have a problem with an enemy inside our own ranks who has committed, as the Oath Keepers do, to uphold a higher oath, not to have fidelity to our commander-in-chief or necessarily to the jurisdictions where they work, but to their notion of the Constitution and a holy obligation that, again, puts minorities, puts Democrats, and puts ordinary citizens in their crosshairs.
CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you very much for coming on this morning.
I'll just stop sharing there. I'll let you all go ahead and give you all's thoughts, and then I'll kind of piggyback off of that. Yeah. Can't argue.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. We read on it every single week in the Constitution, and here it is coming out of somebody else's mouth. It's not just us talking about it now. It's on Front Street. So I think that this is definitely a time for people to listen and to try to further understand where we stand here in the U.S. I mean, people just have to be aware of what's really going on. And it's just not talking at this point.
Really don't have a lot to say. It's pretty much speaks for itself. Like you said, that's a worldwide news outlet. Only thing I will say is the way that this government works is that was a declaration. So now that it's out in the open that you have militia that are running for public office and you go out and you vote, you're going to get exactly what you're asking for. Remember, this whole thing operates off your consent. So they're going to change the narrative. You're not going to hear about this. This is the end of the third fiscal quarter. Voting comes in the fourth fiscal quarter. You're going to see your enemy who looks like you. They're going to tell you to go out and vote. But this man has already told you that militia is running for office and they already made it to the primaries. I'll stop right there.
And just kind of piggyback off of, Chief Quietwater as well as Chief Alligator. You didn't hear them talk about anything about, getting these people removed, putting any criminal charges on these groups of people. We're just letting you know it is what it is. I'm just giving you the information and you do with it, what you please. So again, as Chief Alligator stated, if you take your ass to these, voting stations, these voting polls, and still have faith in this system, I mean, at this point, you get what you deserve. How can you see something like that and then still feel that, we have to make sure that we get these people out and put some more people in? The outcome is going to be the same, people. You're trying to put in different numbers and get out a different result when it's going to spit out the same result. We're not working for you. It's plain and simple. We're going to keep, hitting you guys across the head with it until it sticks. And hopefully this is just another, hopefully this is like a lightning bulb or a lightning rod that actually wakes up a lot of you people. Because we have to understand exactly what we're dealing with here. And I'll just leave it at that, and we'll go ahead and get into continue our 1866 hearings. But first and foremost, definitely want to go ahead and, make sure we do some type of recovery. So I'll go ahead with the 12 steps for this week. All right. Step 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend, what's your position on reparations. Step 5, they either support it or they do not. No support means no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small business that does not hire your people. Example, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, so spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and the operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, and products. Step 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your children 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. And D, they should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. Step 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter, will bring us together for a common cause. And as always, definitely want to highlight what stood out as far as these 12 steps for this week. For me, it would have to be number 9. It would have to be number 9 for me this week, especially in regards to what we just listened to and heard in regards to the Anti-Defamation League. All other groups rely on our energy. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating this, people. If you continue to put your energy into this system, especially after, full proof. And again, this is just one militia group that they, quote unquote, had leaks from in regards to their membership. There's plenty of them. You heard them mention the Proud Boys, and there's several other militia groups. We'll read it today in regards to, who has the power over the militia. And you'll see that it says the militia of several states. So again, they're all over this country. In different states, you'll have different militias. So again, this is just one militia group that has 38,000 deep. So I say again, they rely on our energy to continue to, be willing to take up or put up with this this shit we're dealing with, because they need our consent. That's how they remove the karma off of them. So again, we need to make sure that we're, being conscientious of that. And I'll let you all kind of pick your step that stood out this week.
I'll go with 10 this week, and that just kind of ties into everything that we're basically just saying, is that we have to have, in order for it to run, we have to have faith in the government. So which is why, like step 10 says, why financial support should be altered, stopped, and redirected so that we can gain some sort of tracking and everything that's going on. So that sticks out for me this week.
Yeah, I was thinking step 10 as well. Keep beating that drum. There is no money. So literally we're operating with coupons, and they won't even give this group specific coupons for any particular reason. Joe Biden, the first 100 days of any president is the most important days, because that lays out the agenda for the first 4 years. You didn't get anything as a group of people for the first 100 days, and you've watched illegal immigrants get benefits, Afghanistan refugees get benefits, Ukrainians get benefits. Yeah, it's again, I'm gonna keep saying it's a hard pill to swallow that you're a POW or a prisoner of war, but when you understand your history on this land, right when you got your civil rights in 1968, they took the money out of the system. So they won't even give you coupons, which is not even worth anything. You can't even get that from this government. And on top of that, what they founded this government on, which is the Militia Act of 1755, now they're coming out and just pretty much letting you know, we're past Ku Klux Klan, we're past all of that. We're armed, we're ready, and you know, they're gonna get on the offense.
Excellent points. Excellent points made by both yourself and Chief Quietwater. Yeah, I mean, plain and simple, there is no money. It operates strictly off our faith, and like you stated, they won't even give you the coupons that don't have anything backed off it. So that in itself should tell you, okay, who are we actually within this system? You're the American. They'll give everybody else the paper that's worthless, but they won't even give you the worthless paper. Come on, people. It's not rocket science. Next, I'll go ahead and continue with this week's American Inventor. I think we have another good one as always. Now I'll go ahead and share my screen. And this week we have Miss Marion Croak, born May 14th, 1955 in New York, New York. Miss Marion Croak here has over 200 patents. Well, she's responsible for over 200 patents. Inducted into the Women's, what did it say? Women in Technology International Hall of Fame in 2013. She's currently the Vice President of Google, or Vice President of Engineering for Google. And this lady here is responsible for the voice, my screen just kind of went out there. I believe it's voice over internet protocol. So basically being able to say something within a computer system or digitalized system and actually have that message transferred. So pretty much like you can think of it as your voice text message on your iPhone, or if you have Android, if you're able to like say something and it'll actually spell it out. She's pretty much been responsible for that. Previously worked for AT&T. She was the Senior Vice President for a long time for AT&T. And this particular patent here, as you can see on the screen, hold on, my screen coming in and out. So you can see on the screen here, that patent number is going to be 7599359B1. And this patent was granted October 6, 2009. So again, this is Marion Croak, and this is our American Inventor for this week. Go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And next, we will go ahead and have Chief Alligator with this week's Dr. Woodson quote.
Can you share your screen with the quotes?
Yeah, got you. Give me one moment. HDMI messing up. Screen messing up.
I can grab it if necessary.
All right, I should have it here. Okay. And which quote were you looking to read this week?
Scroll down a little bit. Let's see. Do number 6.
Number 6.
So this week's Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote, number 6. Leadership is usually superimposed for the purpose of directing the course of the ostracized group along the same lines. This was accomplished during the days of slavery, which we know to be military work camps, by restricting the assembly of Negroes to certain times and places and compelling them to meet in the presence of a stipulated number of the wisest and discreetest men of the community. These supervisors of the conduct of Negroes would prevent them from learning the truth, which might make them unruly or ambitious to become free. And I wanted to choose that one just to tie in to the video you played. Where's your NAACP? Where's your Urban League? Where's your pastors? Where's your Al Sharpton? You know, where are all these supervisors of the Negro now that they've come right out and, you know, let the world know that we have militia within all sectors of the government. And lastly, man, everything operates off trends. If we look at the last 90 days, we saw the massacre at the grocery store in Buffalo. We saw a man in Ohio get shot 60 times. We've seen countless other people get shot on video. At this point, it's past a trend. It's rhyming like a motherfucker at this point. And you did get a win earlier this year with the George Floyd conviction, but now you're right back to taking L's because you're continuing to be murdered on video and no arrests are being made. It's back to suspension with pay, internal investigation. They're not even raising money for court cases anymore at this point because there will be no court case. What's up with these just district attorneys that look like us? Nobody's going to speak out and say this is unacceptable. So everybody's just going to be quiet. So that's why I chose that quote today.
Excellent quote and great points made. And I like how you tied it in. Yeah, hear nothing from, you know, these organizations that we like to uphold or like to hold at high esteem. Nothing. If you do hear anything in regards to, you know, Black media or quote unquote Black media, they're saying, you know, this is why we have to vote. So you can see that even then, they still want to try and act like this system can be fixed for us, or they still want to have faith in the system because they're still telling you to run to the polls, even though this man, a part of the system, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, is blatantly telling you, oh yeah, they had the politicians, the judges, the officers, the sheriffs, hell, even your pastors. So even your religion is infiltrated. But yet you still want to have faith in this system. So again, our enemies are not just, you know, these people on these lists. It's the people that are telling you, oh yeah, but we still have to vote. Oh yeah, but we still have to do these things. Those are enemies. So there's a lot of straightening that has to be done. And that's why we have this channel, trying to put you all up on game to open up your eyes to realize, okay, a lot of these people that you hold up in this, you know, high esteem are your enemies, and they have to be checked for it. And lastly, we'll have Chief Quiet Water with this week's Maroon historical points and legal.
Pico, can you real quick of the two officers that got shot in the Metro Atlanta area by a European, and he was arrested this week. So while they're showing us get killed being unarmed, here you got a European that killed two Marietta. He got arrested. So again, if y'all want to just share on that real quick, because the pattern is the same. You can now kill cops. This ain't even mass murders like the grocery store in Buffalo. This guy killed two cops in Marietta.
Okay.
No, great point. Great point. I did see that. And yeah, I mean, it just shows you what's going on. And it was the actual person that killed these cops was a European US citizen. So of course, you know, going to take him into custody. Nobody's going to end up, the actual killer won't end up dead. Going to take him into custody, do a little psych evaluation, see why you're trying to, you know, hurt the people that's protecting you. If this is a, you know, European US citizen, because again, they aren't the ones being military occupied. They're the ones that's reaping benefits from the military occupation. But again, it just highlights that. I also saw something else in Illinois that they're, it almost sounded like the purge, like you have X amount of time before you can actually go after a convict or a certain type of thing. So it just, you know, they're putting out these messages, can't even call it subliminal because it's blatant, these blatant messages about how this law or lack thereof laws are going to be upheld. So again, people, I mean, we're in the fourth quarter now. So it's time to either, you know, get prepared. If you haven't gotten prepared, just get with somebody that has. But definitely is you know, time is of the essence at this point.
I agree with both of you. Yeah, it's in our face, and I mean, I really don't have much to say on it in regards to that. Okay, I'll go ahead and do the legal definitions. Is my volume okay? Okay. All right, so legal definitions. Number one, American, a native of America. Number two, descendant, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number three, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number four, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number five, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number six, education, an enlightening experience. And the maroon historical points. Number one was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number two, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number three, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number four, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Number five, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans.
And we can just do the seventh definition: recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength. The action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost, which is why we do the inventors every week. It's on you, Chief Biko.
And lastly, go ahead and jump into the Constitution before we continue with the 1866 Indian Treaty hearing. And this, guys, is just going to bring it home full circle. Again, when we highlight this Constitution, we're highlighting it because this is the foundational document of this government. So all roads lead back to the original. So when we're saying these things, we're mentioning, you know, these laws that are contrary, or these policies rather that are contradicting, you know, this
Check the
founding
message
document.
real quick, Chief Biko, not to interrupt you, but check the message real quick before you go on. I know you're getting ready to build on the Constitution.
Okay. But definitely, the reason why we actually highlight these points is because, again, this is the foundational document. So if anything that comes after it is contradicting it, then that just pretty much voids this whole Constitution, the whole foundation of this US government that we're currently underneath. So again, just want to highlight how we highlight section 10 or number 10 in our steps, 12 steps of recovery. Section 10 states, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender and payment of debts. So again, as Chief Quietwater and Chief Alligator highlighted, we're playing with coupons that are backed by nothing. And yet this government won't even give people that look like yourself and myself the coupon that is worthless. Yet this Constitution states that the only thing that is payment or can be used as payment of debt is gold and silver. So they're contradicting not only themselves and this government, but they won't even give you the contradiction, which is the coupon. So again, people, we have to understand this, because why are we dealing with military, militia, armed forces? Why are we dealing with gentrification? Why are we dealing with racism, segregation? Why are we dealing with these things when there is no money? This government is broke, they have nothing, and they have nothing to give us. So why do we want something from a broke nation? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Next step, we'll go to Article 2, Section 2. And here it states that the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. As I pointed out earlier, the militia of what? Several states. So again, it's not just the Oath Keepers. There's militia in every state, or at least majority of the states. Georgia is a military district. It's separated into militia districts. Like if you were to go and check, family lineages or things of that nature, you'll see that it has, militia district 1, 2, 3, so forth, so on. It was created for a military buffer state. So again, when we're bringing up these things, it's for a reason. We're trying to highlight where this all comes from, if we're ever to escape it and destroy this. And lastly, Article 6, paragraph 2, the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. So again, here just stating that this supreme law of the land is supposed to be the treaty, but even that is contradicted. A lot of the treaties that we read, especially in the beginning, were invalid. They were done separate and apart of the United States government. Separate and apart meaning not backed by the United States government. Congress is the one that's going to pass or approve these treaties. So again, if we're using our mind, doing some, critical thinking, okay? If they're saying, waging war on these people, which again, Congress has to declare war, never declared these wars like the Seminole War, these different wars. There is no Civil War. We broke that down. So how do we have treaties that are supposed to be ending these non-declared wars? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. I know last time that we left off, I believe it was the Seminole that we had listened to. And this time we'll go ahead, I believe we're at the 39-minute mark. We'll go ahead and jump straight into it. Good on time.
Ambassador Chowdhury, please proceed with your testimony.
Mado, I've got a long history with these buttons. Do I have it right, sir?
You got it right. You're doing great.
Thank you. Pixchi, Janda Vosula Chowdhury Jajifkados, Azagnamasi, Ibufunga, Amalga, Utmitus. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of this esteemed committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Janda Vosula Chowdhury, and I'm proud to serve as ambassador of the Muskogee Creek Nation. As I sit here before you today, the sovereignty of all tribal nations is under attack. 2 years ago, the Supreme Court upheld our nation's sovereignty in McGirt versus Oklahoma. Just this past month, however, the court chose to abdicate it in order to placate Oklahoma politicians. Congress has a duty to protect the sovereignty of all tribal nations. That duty is all the more pressing when one branch of the federal government seeks to eliminate it. The Freedman issues trace their roots to injustices against both Native Americans and African Americans. It goes without saying that slavery is and always has been wrong. And just as the United States fought a civil war over slavery, the Creek Nation fought its own civil war. On one side were the traditionalist Upper Creeks, who opposed the imposition of colonial American life into our nation, including the legalization of slavery. I'm a descendant of Fish Pond and other Upper Creek towns. My mom used to explain family oral history, stating that when our family and other Creeks would raid slave owners, we would give freed slaves 3 options. 1, receive our assistance for passage to the north. 2, live among us and with us. Or 3, join an autonomous Black community within the larger Muskogee world. However, these practices conflicted directly with the goals and desires of the most prominent Lower Creeks, who sought to fully assimilate every aspect of white American culture into the fabric of our nation, including slavery, cotton, and Christianity. Instead of allowing the conflict at Creek Nation to play out through our own internal democratic processes, the United States intervened and dispatched General Andrew Jackson to exterminate the Upper Creeks. The United States' goal was nothing less than complete annihilation. In 8 months of massacres, the United States burned nearly every Upper Creek home and murdered thousands of men, women, and children. My ancestors from Fish Pond sought refuge at Horseshoe Bend on the Tallapoosa River in Alabama, and they were slaughtered by Jackson and the slave-owning Cherokee leaders, John Ross and Major Ridge, who volunteered to fight with them. At Tallahassee, Jackson locked 50 men, women, and children in a cabin and burned them alive. Horseshoe Bend and the scores of massacres that preceded it silenced the strong anti-slavery faction within the Creek Nation. Jackson's extermination policies against the Upper Creeks created Alabama and resulted in the Indian Removal Act and ultimately the Trail of Tears. Even so, thousands of Creeks fought on the side of the Union in the American Civil War. Once again, we were targeted. Our homes burned and hundreds died. In exchange for our loyalty, the United States promised that once the war ended, our nation would not lose any land and all the loyal Creeks would be financially assisted. Both promises turned out to be lies. The Treaty of 1866 has often been characterized as a Reconstruction treaty. For us, it was not. It was a land grab that stripped us of half out of our reservation by force. And my great-great-grandpa up Knee Hill, who fought for the Union, said the final payment from the United States wasn't enough to buy a hat. It is important to note that we are not Cherokee Nation. We are not Chickasaw Nation. We are the Muskogee Creek Nation. Our treaty with the United States contains different language than the treaties of other tribal nations. Our current constitution was reviewed and approved by the Department of the Interior. However, the interpretation of this treaty is currently the subject of ongoing litigation. Any true solution must go beyond the shallow political rhetoric and the yes-no binaries that such rhetoric supports. To that end, we've begun a process at Muskogee Creek Nation of developing historical, cultural, and legal research that will help our citizens engage in a thoughtful, informed exploration of this issue as they exercise their sovereign right to determine the future of the Muskogee Creek Nation. The Muskogee Creek Nation is proud of our diverse citizenship. We have citizens who have mixed ancestry, who are also white, African-American, Mexican-American, and many other heritages. I myself am Creek and Asian. But whatever else we may be, we're all Creek Indians by blood. And as a nation that has endured policies intended to exterminate us because we are Creek Indians by blood, citizenship and issues involving non-Creek persons engender deep conflicting emotions. Quite frankly, our citizens stand on both sides of these issues. We're working towards healing. We're not only the descendants of select families that owned slaves, but also those who opposed slavery and incurred the targeted and murderous wrath of the United States military. But the solution to this is not another colonial intervention by the United States. Mado.
Thank you very much for your
I was just jotting down some things that he stated. I could start from the last thing that really stood out to me. Stated that there are 9 Americans that are a part of the Creek Nation. Again, further proof that a lot of these quote unquote Native Americans aren't indigenous to this land. He stated, we have white members, we have Asian members, Mexican members. So again, just being able to pretty much join a club per se is sounding it sounds like what the not only the Creek Nation but pretty much majority of these nations within this hearing is what they do. Hey, you want to be a member, sign up, okay, cool. But then that contradicts what another I believe one of the chiefs had stated, you have to have certain type of blood. So what is this qualifying attribute that you need just to be a member of these quote unquote nations? Because it sounds like they're just allowing anybody to become a part of them. Again, need approval from the US government to even sanction off anything. So how can you actually be a sovereign nation if you have to, again, ask for permission or approval from another nation that supersedes you? He stated needed approval from the US government's Secretary of Interior, I believe, for their constitution or something to be ratified. So again, they're subordinate or up underneath this US government. And again, he stated the American Civil War. What's war? What is this Civil War that, all of these members on this panel keep bringing up? We had Maxine Waters, 2 or 3 weeks ago, just stated that it was a rebellion. So where are we getting this Civil War from? Again, I'll show it. After this, Congress has the power to declare war. Congress never declared a Civil War. So why do we continue to have this lie spewed out and spoken about by these members in this hearing? So they're not only lying about, a war, they're lying about who they are, lying about them being the actual American, as well as other things. So I'll just stop right there and let you all kind of, speak on what pretty much stood out to you all.
For me, that definitely stood out in regards to him saying that, you could be white, Mexican, Asian, he's whatever he said he was an Asian. It just does not make sense for them to even be having this hearing because it's all just made up. Like this is just a show for them to prove what, I just think that we need to be collectively just aware, of course, not many people have viewed this because this wasn't just blasted over the internet or on the news or anything. So their goal is being achieved because they're going through the motions of this and just blatantly just lying. Like you said, it's just like you just sign up to be a part of this club or this this nation. I just don't think that is right. It's ridiculous. It's comical at this point.
I agree. And the lies, you can't keep your story straight. It's amazing how he talks about Andrew Jackson and the Indian Removal Act, but you want to neatly avoid the background image, which is the Seminole Wars. Everybody wants to act as if there was no wars going on. In addition to that, when you don't know your history, most people will probably hear him talk about slaves. And if you look like myself and everybody on this channel, you probably think that you were the slave. My suggestion to anybody that's going to watch this video is stand on the edge of the coin. Don't choose heads or tails. Look at your history. Look at everything that you created. You fought in every war on this land. So why are you putting yourself as the slave? These people are a minority on this land. The people with the Mongoloid look, that Asian look that he referred to. The European, we know, came over here as peasantry. So when you look at everything that we created, all the towns that have been burnt down during this period and going into the early 20th century will be the 1900s. We have to stop looking at ourselves as slaves. Chief Quietwater, you said it. It's only 357 views. This hearing took place in July. Our people are out to lunch. Our people are out to lunch. These people are openly broadcasting that militia is in government. This history, I don't know why we feel like American history isn't a part of our story. So basically, we're just completely neglecting our great-grandparents. I'm an optimist by nature, but when it comes to this group, they've taken everything from you. They've taken your inventions, which turned into industries. They've outsourced your manufacturing to Asia. We have nothing as a group. You have immigrants that have come over here and become the small business class, which is the engine of this government. And so you wonder where the disrespect comes from. You wonder why people are claiming everything that you've done, because you don't own it. You don't own anything. So you don't control anything. And everybody is pretty much giving us their ass to kiss because we are the consumer. We are the consumer group.
Yeah, excellent points made by both of you. Yeah, at this point, you can see that they're just stumbling over their own lies, repeating the same lies. So they're in, they're on code in regards to that. All of these people who are claiming to be our ancestors, a part of our ancestors' lineage, in, promoting or keeping the lie going in regards to, a civil war. And they do a great job at it because they're doing a great job at putting themselves into the story. As Chief Quietwater highlighted, said he was some form of, American, but with Asian. And he goes on the list, that's how you can get, we have white members and Mexican members as well. And then we look back at, 2 weeks ago when we had the ginger, the redhead fella claiming to be Native American as well, or American as well. So you can see how they're all on code in regards to that, because as you can see, they all look different. Some look Asian, some look European, some look like hybrids. So they're on code on that. But again, we have to get on code as well in understanding that this is a lie. I mean, it says it in the title, Reconstruction Treaties. They're just telling a retelling of a story, but they're excluding certain facts, a lot of truth, and they're implementing a lot of lies with that. So we'll go ahead and continue. Should be able to get one more.
Testimony, Mr. Greetham, please proceed with your testimony.
Thank you very much. Chairman Schatz, Vice
Chairwoman Murkowski, and honorable members of the committee. My name is Stephen Greetham. I serve as senior counsel to the Chickasaw Nation. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. The committee called this hearing to inquire as to freed person descendants' tribal citizenship rights under various 1866 treaties. For Chickasaw, this inquiry is controlled by Article 3 of our 1866 treaty, a treaty to which the Choctaw Nation is also a party. The United States Supreme Court adjudicated the committee's question more than a century ago. Consistent with that adjudication, we have not violated, nor are we violating our treaty. But before I go further, let me state plainly, human chattel slavery is a stain on history. It is a stain on the continent's history, on the United States history, and on Chickasaw history. Likewise, Jim Crow is a stain on the United States and Oklahoma's history. There's no room for ambiguity on those points, and nothing I say today should be interpreted as suggesting any ambiguity. Relevant to the committee's inquiry, the Chickasaw Nation's 1866 treaty provides for a land cession to the United States, but conditions federal compensation on the nation's choosing to extend citizenship to freed persons. That choice was neither made nor supplanted by the treaty, which only spoke to the consequence of whichever choice the Chickasaw made. The Chickasaw people deliberated and chose not to extend citizenship. In doing so, the Chickasaw expressly relinquished any claim to compensation for the lands the United States took. This choice was not a violation of the treaty, but its implementation. And of course, as the Supreme Court recently quipped, history did not stop in 1866. In the wake of restored treaty relations, the US again broke faith. Giving into non-native political pressure, Congress turned its efforts to undermining tribal self-government and opening indigenous lands to non-native settlement, so Oklahoma could be formed as a brand new state. It should be remembered that throughout this period, Chickasaws themselves were not US citizens, though they and their rights remained subject to Congress's claim to plenary authority over Indian affairs. In the chaos resulting from this pressure campaign, disputes over freed person rights arose. And in 1902, Congress directed us to court. And by us, I mean the United States and the Chickasaw Nation and the Freedmen and the Choctaw Nation. Here's Congress's language. Authority is hereby conferred on the Court of Claims to determine the existing controversy respecting the relations of the Chickasaw freedmen to the Chickasaw Nation and the rights of such freedmen in the lands of the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nations under the third article of the Treaty of 1866 between the United States and the Choctaw and Chickasaw Nations, and under any and all laws subsequently enacted by the Chickasaw legislature or by Congress. In considering the case, the court concluded, 1, Congress had not independently vested freed persons with citizenship, and 2, the treaty did not impose an obligation for the tribe to do so. Instead, the treaty provided for potential citizenship. As the Court of Claims put it, quote, a means whereby freedmen might, by consent of the tribe and the voluntary action of former slaves, become members, close quote. Based on treaty text and the parties' actions, the court ruled freed persons were, quote, freed persons, quote, relation to the Chickasaw Nation is, as the treaty expresses, the same as citizens of the United States in the nation. This remains a true statement of law and fact today. And again, the statement represents treaty implementation, not violation. Treaties matter. They're the supreme law of the land. The federal legal system both produced the Chickasaw Nation's 1866 treaty and adjudicated its meaning more than a century ago. We are both, the Chickasaw Nation and the United States, bound by the court's disposition of the matter. Mindful of questions the law does not answer, though, Chickasaw stands by this process and result. All peoples work to reconcile their often complicated histories over time. The US and Chickasaw signed the 1866 treaty during a difficult period in our shared history, a period in which the United States began its own process of reconciling its dehumanizing reliance on human chattel slavery. We're more than 150 years on now, and that process continues, as it should. But the law matters. Chickasaw history, like other histories, involves growth and setback, trial and progress. In its most recent generations, the nation has made tremendous progress in rebuilding its governing institutions. Today, it employs thousands, both Chickasaw citizens and, like me, non-citizens. It invests in communities throughout its reservation, Oklahoma, and the region. It is dynamic and its work is ongoing. It remains committed to this rebuilding effort, and it engages in it consistent with the law and its people's right to sovereign self-determination. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you for the opportunity to start a conversation.
Thank you very much. Ms. Van,
We'll stop right there. Did you have any anything that kind of stood out to you all in regards to his statements?
Chief Crodwater, you gonna go first? Yeah, a lot jumped out. Number one, how are they just overlooking that these tribes came from east of the Mississippi River? That's first and foremost. The Choctaw, Chickasaw, you moved a small select portion of those people into Indian Territory, which later became the state of Oklahoma. Then you mix them in with Europeans and other prisoners of war, and you just basically made a fake nation. It's almost like the nerve of them to sit up here and pick and choose who's going to actually be Chickasaw and Choctaw when all of these people, and thank you for pulling up this map, all of these tribes originally come from what we know now as the Dirty South, or what's been called the Bible Belt. So the fact that you move these people into Indian Territory, and now these people are actually trying to sit up here and play gatekeeper to an American heritage. In addition to that, this attorney, counsel for the Chickasaw, is talking about the treaty being the supreme law of the land, but Congress never declared a war. So this 1866 treaty that all these nations have are unlawful and invalid, because if you did not have a civil war and the United States government never declared a civil war, then these treaties are just like these people who are claiming to be Chickasaw, Choctaw, Seminole, Creek, and Cherokee. They're a made up group of people, but they're not the original people who look like us that come from the Southeast region of North America. So again, when we don't know our history, we can let these foreigners play these games with us. We don't understand how this government operates. And it's amazing that you got counsel up here. That's the second attorney that's representing one of these quote unquote nations. And he's sitting up here. Thank you, Chief Biko. Can you highlight where it says to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal? We're asking, show us where Congress voted to declare war, to declare a civil war. We're also asking, show us where Congress declared a Seminole War. So it's mighty interesting that during your Reconstruction period, which is when you had to make this lie up because neither one of these wars were declared, you built fake monuments of Confederates, but there's no declaration in writing that you ever declared a war. You got museums in Florida, you got memorials in Florida, with the Battle of Dade and all these different battles that happened during these Seminole Wars, but everybody want to act like that didn't happen. But you're going to stand on the 1830 Indian Removal Act as if Andrew Jackson did something lawful, when in reality, he moved people without war being declared. Now you got this same group of people trying to pick and choose who can be members of these fraudulent nations. It's not hard what they're doing. They're bold-faced lying at this point. And again, we're challenging everybody. Show us where Congress declared a civil war, because that's the only way they're able to hide behind these fake 1866 treaties, is because they're saying that there was a civil war. If they cannot produce a document showing where Congress declared a war, then those treaties are null and void.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely all facts there. Yeah, I just don't know where are they trying to even go with this? What is the end result that they're trying to achieve with just being this bold with coming and having this hearing that nobody knew about? Am I missing something? What are they trying to do?
Great point, though. Great question. What are their
Yeah.
goals? Because it's obvious, like you just highlighted, as well as Chief Alligator, that they're not fighting for their land where they originally came from, because like we just showed you, it's the Southeast. You're worried about shit that's going on in Oklahoma. So that's the first red flag to show that these people aren't the true Americans. Why are you settling for power to rule on who and who cannot be a part of your quote unquote nation, when this same government that you're trying to make your points across to in regards to having your ability to tell or have your say on who can join your nation, when they're the same people that just illegally or unlawfully moved you from, or supposedly moved you from, your homelands. You're not worried about that. You're worried about having power to dictate who and who cannot be a part of your nation, so you can still reap those benefits. You see what I'm saying? That's how it's coming out to me, versus actually, okay, all of these treaties that you made with our ancestors are unlawful because, like we just highlighted, you never declared any war, whether it be the Seminole War or Civil War, because that's the only way you'll be able to capture our land and water to move us to present-day Oklahoma. We're not concerned about that because we already understand that we're not the Americans. We're putting on a mask like we are. So we're talking about the deal in which you said we'll be able to dictate who and who cannot be a part of our new Native American nations. So that in itself is highlighting to me that these people aren't the true Americans. They're worried about more so about classism than actual recovery for their lost, stolen, and robbed land and assets. That's what we talk about on this channel. They're talking about a totally different thing within this hearing. And I'll let you all kind of stop right there or build off of that.
Yeah, that's true. They're not really just upstanding and really fighting for what is real and what really happened. Is for their own gain in regards to what they're trying to achieve for their greater good, not for what's right, and not for I mean, they're just taking it to the max of upholding this lie, basically, is what I see. This lie that is like they've gotten to the point where there's no turning back. Like they basically have to continue to mask it and continue to lie and to continue to uphold what they know the truth about, but the fact that everyone else is in the dark about what's real and what's in black and white in the Constitution and things of that nature. So they're basically doing their part to uphold their lie.
Mm-hmm.
By any means necessary, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why I said earlier, they're all on code in regards to that, because they're all bringing up the same points, slavery, this, we were said to be able to have the right to dictate who and who cannot be a part of our respective nations. We were, warring with Andrew Jackson. Like they're all saying the same thing. So they're on code. And like you stated, just shows to me that they're on code for a specific reason. And it's just to have that classism, be able to again dictate who and who cannot be a part of their nation. And it kind of goes back to what Chief Alligator stated earlier. When we became citizens underneath this government, or quasi-citizens, 3 years later, they took the money out. So it sounds to them they didn't. It sounds to me like these quote unquote Native American nations didn't account for this other group that is saying, oh, we're a part of your nation too. It sounds like, hold on now, you said we can dictate who can. We already have a limited allotment of funds from you all, United States government. So now you're saying we have to spread the wealth with these other people. Okay, now that's not what we agreed upon in these treaties. That's how it's coming off to me, at least.
Yeah, in closing, I'll just say, is this confusing? And I'm asking y'all this question on this channel. Do you think what we're doing is confusing because we're so far out to lunch as a group of people on this topic? Yeah, can y'all answer that? Like, is it hard to understand Reconstruction is a long way of saying lying? I don't know why we can't believe that if they don't have a document showing they declared a Civil War and a Seminole War, then you have to look at all these statutes and all these school books that were written. You have to look at the length that they would go to live this lie.
Mhm.
Especially when every one of their websites say that there's millions of these same people east of the Mississippi.
I don't think it's confusing at all. I mean, a lot of this information I didn't know prior to us studying, and we're a year in now, over a year in. So a lot of this information that I didn't know, but now that I know it and understand that we didn't have to dig too deep to get to the real information and get to the truth. So I definitely don't think it's confusing at all.
I had to agree. If you could lie about your government not being infiltrated from militia, and then the truth comes out that it is, then what makes you think they wouldn't lie about other things? It's like, okay, you lied to me once. Does that not make you a liar? How many times do we have to turn the other cheek or say, oh, that's just one instance, when they keep showing you, no, this is what we do on a constant basis, until you get, okay, why do we even believe anything that comes out of these people's mouths? When it comes
And I think
from,
that's the sickening part for us, is that
you know,
we're not believing who they are showing us that they are. Like,
Mhm.
it is over and over and over and over. And like you said, now, just like you put it real simple and plain when you talked about the list of the people that were on the militia, in the militia groups, and it's like, they're not saying, oh, we have politicians and councilmen that are in the militia and we're not going to do anything about it. We're just letting you know.
Mhm.
And what do you do with that information? Do you continue to just get slapped in the face like every time something happens? Or do you think okay, they're telling me and we got to do something about this?
Correct. And it just
So
goes back
let me
to,
ask y'all, let me ask y'all right quick. Why is it that why can't we see that reality that you just said, Chief Quietwater, and Chief Biko? What's stopping us as a group of people to accept the fact that they've never stopped waging war on us since the 1800s?
I liken it to an abusive relationship. You've been with this person for X amount of years. You already know what to expect from them, so you're not even trying to leave the said relationship or change. You're constantly trying to change this person, but like Chief Quietwater stated, they didn't show you their true colors. At this point, you either have one or two options. You're either going to stay with them or you're going to leave. And right now, our people are continuing to stay with this person. No matter how bad they're treated, we want to continue to stay with this person because, I don't know, you can't see anything positive within that person that you're wanting to change. You're just so comfortable in your position where you don't even have to explore other options.
Right.
That's the mental aspect we're in right now. You're so used to being in this particular state. You're like, you know what? It seems like we could leave, but who's to say it won't happen to us again in another relationship?
Right.
But that defeated mindset, okay, you're so comfortable with this where you're not even willing to be uncomfortable with the possibility of something better.
Mm-hmm.
No matter if it's just incremental, you're not even, nah. I know what to expect from them. Okay, yeah, I know I'm gonna get beat every quarter. I'm gonna get my ass beat by this person, and we just go and deal with it. And he may give us, some crumbs to eat whenever he feeds the rest of, the family. That's the only time we'll be able to eat, is when the whole family is getting, but nothing specific is coming to me, and I'm fine with that. But I just don't want to even step out of this relationship to see if there's something better. That's what it sounds like to me.
And I think there's a lot of distraction too. We are so waist deep in the distractions that are put out there with social media, entertainment, everything else, but what's right in front of our face and what's guiding our life on this land. Like, it's just a lot of distractions too, I think, with people.
For sure.
So the distractions and low self-esteem is what I'm hearing both of y'all say. So it sounds like what y'all are saying is, let's just use the word slavery for a minute, instead of saying prisoner of war. Instead of them putting chains on every single person that looks like us on this land, what they actually did was took our head, took it off our shoulders, and put their head on our shoulders. And so what we're doing is we're walking around melanated Europeans, because we only know history the way that they interpret it.
Right.
We believe in a civil war that they want us to look at. We can't do a 180, which is what this channel is about. We can't reverse engineer it and look at the fact that there was Seminole Wars and we fought in every war on this land, and that we actually had inventions and manufacturing, and we were warring for hundreds of years before the early 1900s during the world wars, when we finally just collapsed. And then you get a Martin Luther King and a Malcolm X, and then they start going the religious route, because that was the last of our military defense for our people. So then we start believing in a power greater than ourselves and wanting to be civil with them. And we wanted to integrate with them, which is what happened. They ended up integrating us with them because they decimated our defense. It took hundreds of years to do it. Great points by both of y'all. So I'm gonna stand on the other side of it and just say it's brainwashing. We can't see outside of what they've made us see. And I think that's why this, on top of the distractions, like Chief Quietwater said, they've made us minorities. They've made us juveniles, because we cannot critically think as a group of people. And then you have people who look like us that perpetuate the Reconstruction lie. So we're completely dependent on another group of people when all of this shit was ours. It's mind-blowing. It's really mind-blowing that you don't have to look that deep. We created all of this shit, and we will not see past the fact that we were slaves. I don't even think it's an abusive relationship, Chief Biko. I don't even think it's an abusive relationship. I think we're just literally under a spell. They literally have us looking at things through their lens. It's a bold-faced lie, but we can only see it through their lens. And so we're willing to just go along with what we're kids, which is why we answer to the term minority. That's why they can come straight out and let the world know, yeah, all sectors of our government are infiltrated with militia, and we'll still line up and go vote, which means you're showing the world. If you're the European, he's saying, look, we told them, what is it, September? We told them in September that they're infiltrated. Don't come save them, China, Russia, all these different nations that's got militaries. Don't come try to help these people, because they're still willing to participate. And that's how they get us. They get us because we're still willing to participate, even though they tell us we killing you.
And you wonder why you have no respect from all these other nations. Take off the blinders.
I don't know if we're gonna I think after that declaration on the news by the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, do y'all have any hope in us as a group of people moving forward? It's hard because Like you said, Chief Quietwater, he said it. He said it. And we're still going to go participate in this system.
Yeah, I don't think people, if you ask 10 people that look like us, if they saw that news, if they did or if they did, 9 times out of 10, they probably, 10 out of 10 probably did not understand it. And 10 out of 10 probably could care less about it. It probably went so far over their head that it doesn't matter because they don't know the history. I'll say 9 out of 10. I won't say 10 out of 10. I'll say 9 out of 10. They don't know the history. So if they knew that only the president can call out the militia, then that would make sense to them. But the fact that they don't know that information is not going to make sense. It's not going to click to the average person who don't know the Constitution. That's just my thought, if that makes sense.
And on top of that, Joe Biden is not going to say, this is awful, we're going to do a special investigation. He's not going to say anything which further shows you that this government is against you. He won't say not one thing. You would think.
And that was on mainstream news that our parents probably watch every night before going to bed.
Right.
you know, the much older generation probably watched it and probably have no clue what they were talking about.
A 5-minute news, I want to say on a news story. Give it 5 minutes, bring the CEO on. All right, another news.
Right, exactly.
We got to put it in there again, like Chief Alligator said, we got to make them aware.
What they call a soft disclosure.
Correct. Put it in there, 5 minutes, show all the numbers. Whoever reads it, get it. But we put it out there. You can't say that we didn't bring this information, like you said. So, again, don't sign up for your own demise.